ready to feel
the power.
That's Colin, Crandall, myself, Adam Roorda here with another episode of MMA Power Hour. We are quite a ways in on multiple seasons for you guys. We're pushing 20 episodes now, Colin.
Wow, I would say, like 5.5 years almost. And let's say each
average
year,
of 25.
An average of, I think, more than 25 episodes.
Yeah, about 350 episodes probably.
Gotta
at the
be,
end of the day,
if not more.
Yeah. So we're real close. Real glad to have everybody here. Now I'm wearing one of my beat up T-shirts that's made it through Grapevine, but the show is brought to you by Lith Token. Head on over to lithtoken.io. It's LITH token.io, and check out what we're doing over there. And I say I am the blockchain architect. This show is brought to you by Lith Token. And also Cross-Train MMA Fighter. Don't forget about that. CrossTrainMMAfighter.com has a few T-shirts, not very many left, but reach out and see if they have these sizes available to you. Another thing I want to throw out here is when we have on our guests tonight, if you want to ask questions, make sure to throw us some tips on the Hannibal TV on YouTube. You guys are the best for tuning in every week. Make sure to hit us up on our social media. It's at MMA Power Hour. In fact, we're starting to transition to our Facebook group for a lot of the social media. Just keep it over there. Everything else has kind of started slowing down a little bit because I'm so swamped with Lith Token. But if you hit up the group, we are looking for moderators as well and looking for some help with that. So feel free to reach out to us. We are looking for trusted individuals to help out with keeping the moderation going. That group is growing.
1,000. We're at 1,000 now. Today, 1,000 members of the MMA Power Hour
group. And that's so cool. You know, I remember when we hit 1,000 on our page.
Yep.
It was just so exciting.
That was awesome.
Now I feel like the group actually has more weight and power for us. So help us get those numbers up. It's just at MMA Power Hour for the page, and then if you just put in your search MMA Power Hour, request an invite. And if you're somebody watching from there right now, we do have the show going there. Make sure to invite people to the group. Let them know about the group because the video's there. But also, if you're in that group, head on over to the Hannibal TV. Check out the Hannibal TV on YouTube and Facebook. The Great North Wrestling as well is another thing you can put in, and you'll end up at the same place.
Absolutely. And, you know, you guys that know Hannibal is I think the largest Canada-based combat sports podcast with about 330,000 views. I think a lot of it's from subscribers. Sorry about that. 330,000 subscribers, tens of millions of views. If you look at all his content over the last few years, and he was a professional wrestler. He still is a professional wrestler. He's been a commentator, but a lot of people don't know that he was a decorated, I believe, Greco-Roman and freestyle wrestler, if I'm not mistaken, and did have a couple of MMA fights, and definitely is a mixed martial artist, very, very tough guy, really well trained, and he does love mixed martial arts, although wrestling has been more of his focus between amateur and pro wrestling for most of his life and channel. But he does really appreciate mixed martial arts, so we've got a great relationship with Hannibal. So this show is not only shown on his channel, but he likes it, he watches it. We have a great relationship.
Absolutely. And everybody, like I said, head on over to the Hannibal TV and show your love if you're on our group videos right now. And everybody that wants to chat, we love you guys. You guys are the best. I am the nerd of nerds, and Colin is second in line for nerd of nerds.
Thank you.
So we are used to being trolled. Don't troll too much. We do get a little sensitive. We're a couple good Midwestern boys. So love y'all anyways.
Yes, exactly. And I want to do a quick shout out to one of our longest supporters. I mean, there's two guys that come to mind. My good friend Mark. And Mark, thank you so much for always supporting. And Daniel. And I know that Daniel has some of the best content of wrestling and combat sports. I actually want to put it in a perfect way. Here we go. He is Daniel, the historian, with some of the best footage from mixed martial arts fights over the last 3 decades. Most people know that next year will be 30 years since their first UFC, and Daniel Alexander has some of the best footage from all organizations: Pride, Extreme Fighting Championship, King of the Cage, UFC, World Extreme Cage Fighting, and Strike Force. So many great organizations. So big ups to Daniel Alexander. Appreciate it, and big ups to Mark Scappa for supporting us for so long. Really appreciate you, Mark, as well.
And so many other supporters.
Yeah.
Really, honestly, we can't even name them all right now, because there's so many that have been around for so long. You know, we got Woodsy, we've got Simerson, and Lederfiend, and so many people.
Opoku has been with us watching for a long time. Yep,
sticking around every week. It's amazing seeing all the support.
We really appreciate it. Just so many great guys and great girls, and the people. Erica, also Mislik from the Eastern Bloc. She is amazing, and just so many people. Forgive us for forgetting. It's just so many wonderful people that have been watching and been with us from the beginning, and we really appreciate it. And also Ron. I can't believe it. I'm getting so old, but I'm doing a brain fart. Anyway, I'm going to remember a name while you're talking, Adam, and I'm going to shout it out here as soon as I remember.
It's the old man memory.
Yeah, man, it's getting to be.
Hey, I've got gray in my beard. I've got old man memory too.
You can relate to an extent. You're just starting to get there. And I was right. Ron Lopez. A big shout out to Ron Lopez, and I didn't want to get the name wrong.
It's just old man memory. It hits us sometimes. Colin, I forget your last name sometimes too.
Thank you. I forget yours too. So it's even. No, I'm kidding. I remember yours because it's like a lion roars. Duh. Right? That's the Roorda. That was one of.
It's like a lion roars.
That's it. And that was actually a hook. How long have you had that hook for your people remembering your name? Like 20 years or something?
Yeah, right about 20 years, a little less, about 18, I think.
Nice, ever since you started streaming.
Yeah. This is right about the time I started streaming. One of my kung fu instructors, he turned around and he's like, "Well, we need to call you Lion Fist, because it's like a lion roars."
Fist of the lion, I like that.
I came up with it first, but it was shortly after that.
I like it.
Lion Fist hit.
Man, oh man, it's and what was the show that you had for a short while when we first started doing them? Wasn't that Lion Fist Live, I think?
Yeah, I actually had a Lion Fist Music Radio back in Des Moines, Iowa, and did quite well with that. One of the first internet radio shows out there, and live streaming involved with it. So I just wanted to carry it over for a bunch of old fans, and I actually had decent views right off the bat, just because a lot of the people that were following me on Facebook remember me for that.
Yep, that's right.
Kind of cool,
It was very cool. It was good stuff. I remember you go on there and have a rant on this or that, and share your thoughts. And I think
it's so random. There was one I went in completely blitzkrieged off of pot. I was so high.
I think I remember that one, because all of a sudden you were on, and my girl was like, hey, there's Adam, he's on, and you were like kind of like that, and I was like, what is Adam doing? And
what did I just talk about? I just went on conspiracy theory stuff.
I love it. Funny, good stuff.
It's fun. But yeah, no, it kind of died out after that, just because it really was. I don't know. All of our energy went into this show.
It did. MMA Power Hour. We were pushing, we were grinding, and we were rocking. And it was hard to have time for anything else. But speaking about MMA Power Hour, so this week we did have one guest have to reschedule, and many of you were looking forward to see the African Savage Kennedy Nzechukwu, and he will be on next week in the first spot of the show at 6:10 Pacific, 8:10 Central. Yeah, off that big win, and that was a really good win for him. Such a good guy, and a really tough fighter. And I think that was people are now looking at him as someone a serious threat, at least, if not necessarily to the top 3 as of yet, but to being in the top 10, in which I think he's maybe one fight away. So he's in there for sure. He's a good athletic big man with a good chin, a lot of power, a lot of size, and knows how to use it, knows how to move. And with that MMA pedigree, which is starting to become pretty decorated, is being born in Nigeria. We've got Kamaru Usman, the champ, and Israel Adesanya, the champ, 2 champions from Nigeria. And that's really unusual to have 2 people from anywhere other than like USA or Brazil, or Russia perhaps lately. But yeah, representing Nigeria, a lot of really good fighters, and Kennedy is absolutely one of them representing.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So our first guest, we've got about 5 more minutes, right?
Yeah, I believe so. So I don't know if we can remember. Sometimes when an event ends, we're so much, all of us are like thinking about the next event. But this past Saturday, what was the main? Do you even remember anymore, Adam? I should be the one that remembers, but I'm just.
You need to be the one that remembers.
Yeah, I know, because I know you're not remembering, because
I've-
you're not, half the time you're not able to watch it lately. I know you're
No,
definitely
I
wrapped
haven't
up
had
in the
time.
Lith token.
Most weeks I will go ahead and catch up with highlights and stuff like that, fights leading up to it. But quite frankly, I just don't have much time until the next fight that they have.
Absolutely, I do remember.
I can tell you, I did watch the Kennedy highlights, and
that was
man,
awesome. Kennedy, that was brutal. He got that top position in back mount and just annihilated Baby K Carl Roberson with those elbows. That was awesome. Main event, I do remember. It was Rafa against Hafa. Yeah. Rafael Fiziev
and I called that one. That's right. How did I forget that? I guess I did.
You know what? I knew that RDA would be in it, though. They were making him about a 3-1 dog, and I knew there was value in RDA, Rafael dos Anjos, and he was arguably kind of pretty close, maybe losing by a little bit when he got caught in the 5th round. And then that was it. A lot of people, including myself, felt the stoppage was a little bit quick. But Fiziev is legit. I mean, it's tough, because sometimes when you have fighters at a really, really high level, a lot of it sometimes comes down to a matter of a millisecond or a millimeter. When someone throws a shot, and either you're just as quick as they are, and your eyes are just as good as they are, and you're just as close to your prime as they are, and you avoid it by just a tiny head movement, or you don't. And when you had, like, I think a 30 or 29-year-old Rafael Fiziev right in his prime, and I think a 36 or 7-year-old Rafael dos Anjos after his prime, he just didn't see it coming. And I don't know it's necessarily 100% age, but I kind of feel almost like a younger Rafael dos Anjos would have been. He was so dynamic. He probably would have been shooting. His level would have been down anyway, and even in the 5th round. But I think it is tiring to keep on shooting, and he most of the time wasn't getting anywhere. Anyway, no crack on Rafael Fiziev. He is really good, but it's a tough division. Now, if you have the champ, Alex Volkanovski, the featherweight champ, talking about going up to lightweight, and look at all the people there with Rafael Fiziev, with you got Gregor Gillespie there. You got still Justin Gaethje. You got Michael Chandler, Beneil Dariush, Charles Oliveira, Islam Makhachev. Also, Mateusz Gamrot, and Arman Sarukian. That was an amazing fight. Could have gone either way. It's, I will say this. For the longest time, I've said the featherweight class is, my opinion, of the most stacked. But now it's really close. And I'll tell you what, with the loss of Zabit Magomed Sharapov, with him retiring, I might say the lightweight may be slightly more stacked, although featherweight is still a killer division. But yeah, a lightweight has a lot of guys that have not faced each other. In featherweight, Alex Volkanovski has beaten most of the guys, even though he hasn't beaten Josh Emmett, or you got your Rodriguez and a couple other guys. But still, both are amazing weight classes, and we'll see what Rafael Fiziev does. I kind of am anxious to see him knocked off. I don't know why I faded him as far as wagering over the last couple of fights, and I've lost, and maybe I'm kind of annoyed. And I kind of would like someone to shut him up, although he seems like a good guy.
That's actually the logic I used in choosing him, because I lost a couple bets.
Right, you're like, if you can't beat him, join him. Yeah,
I got to go for him now.
Yeah. He's a really good fighter, and he's young, and he's really a shorter, stockier fighter than most in that weight class.
At some point, you have to learn your lesson, Colin, and I finally learned my lesson, and I got it right.
If you can't beat him, join him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, makes sense. But I will see. Depending who he fights, I may go for a third. They say the third time's a charm. A lot of times in my life, the third time ends up being a charm. So I may indeed fade Mr. Rafael Fiziev one more time, but maybe not. We'll see.
So speaking of main events, we actually and
The co-main. We have the co-main.
yeah, we
guest.
have the co-main ready to go here any second. We'll see. She's not online, but let's see if we can get her on right now.
Yeah, let's see what happens if we ring.
It's definitely her profile. Got it right.
Cool.
Skype dance.
We're dancing,
but she's not online, so you may need to shoot her a message real quick.
all right. Let me check with the person who helped arrange for the interview. Bear with me here, and I want
I'm gonna turn that down while we chat.
There we
Skype
go.
dance.
Yep.
I'm gonna Skype dance
right.
while you dictate.
Okay. Trying to Skype call Michelle now, but it looks like she's not online. Period. All right.
Skype.
Hello.
Hey, Michelle, how are you doing?
Hey guys, I with KB and Hanato, so sorry about that if you were calling me earlier.
No problem at all. No problem at all. And KB and Hanato, are they part of your management team or trainers? Or since we're officially live, let us know as much as you want to with everyone watching.
Oh no, Karen Bryant.
Awesome.
So, yeah, just doing an interview with them.
Excellent. And I know that she was doing a show with Alan. Oh yeah, my producer asked me if you could hit the video button when you have a minute. That would be awesome. And forgive me for not even knowing, because Karen Bryant is KB. I don't know why. I'm getting old, Michelle. We were just talking about that. Sometimes it seems like stuff that I knew like a year ago, like that. I'm like, what is that, Dave? And I'm like, damn. I'm like, it starts to happen, I guess, a little bit. But yeah. And then I know she was doing a show with Alan Joban. But who's the Hanato that's involved with her, or is that a producer?
He's the Brazilian Carmel. He's like the comedian. He's super funny.
Yes, Renato Laranja, I think, right? Yes. Yeah. That is awesome that he's still around. Because I remember he started doing his thing like about 10 or 12 years ago, didn't he? That was like right when you were getting, even before you got into the UFC, it was when he jumped out, or was it around the same time?
Yeah. He's hilarious, man, for sure. And it's funny because it's kind of like my master. Yeah. It's funny because so many Brazilians that you love and adore.
Yes.
And it's just funny because you can relate to everything that he says.
Yes, he is a character, and I remember early on he really was like getting people to believe it. Because I remember the one segment he did, I think, when Chris Weidman was a champion. And it looked like he was really like getting Chris mad. And then Chris stood up, and he's like twice the size of this guy. And then this guy submits Chris Weidman. Everyone's like, what the hell did we just see? And then all of a sudden it was like, people are like, wait a second, this guy's beating the baddest men in the world. And it's like, yep, because it's a joke. But that was really cool that people were willing to go along with that. But yeah, he's a funny dude. And yeah, Karen's awesome. She's been doing this for such a long time, and she's really good at what she does, isn't she?
Yeah, I was just talking to them, and we're kind of reminiscing about me being behind the desk as an analyst and how much that actually helped me as a fighter. Just kind of come into my own and be comfortable with having an opinion, because I just think as an active fighter, when you're behind the desk, you can take quite a bit of heat for giving your opinion, even though it is just that, an opinion. But
absolutely. You learn while you teach, you really do, don't you? And even if you're not essentially teaching, by commentating, it really does kind of give you an opportunity to kind of look from the outside that you don't normally get as a fighter, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes too, you get to kind of connect the dots. There are always going to be like these underlying themes that happen within the evolution of MMA, and sometimes when you're only focused on your division, those things are things that you can miss. But when you're studying a whole fight card, a whole roster of fighters, and you start to see these patterns emerge, it can really help the development of yourself as a fighter.
Absolutely. Going to something slightly unrelated, I want to ask a quick question before I forget. Sometimes I have a ton of people especially with a really popular guest like yourself that want me to ask questions, and we can't ask all of them because I have a lot of stuff I want to talk to you about. But a guy that I've known his family for a long time, and I think he and his brother are both black belts and in traditional karate, but they also have always been excited about mixed martial arts. So he asked this question, and I'm going to tell you what my answer was, and then let's hear your answer, and let's see if I was maybe right, or if not, I'm okay being wrong. Happens a lot. Okay, he said, I wonder if Michelle Waterson would be excited if they brought in an atomweight division into the UFC right now. And I said to him, I said, I bet she would have 5 years ago, but maybe not as much now. Tell me what the real answer is.
I think the real answer is I think it would be great for the UFC if you give, if you build it, they will come, like they say, right?
Yes. Yep. Field of dreams.
What's amazing is that there are girls out there that are amazing fighters at 105 that haven't been able to really been seen because there is no some of the platforms are smaller, that they fight at. So absolutely, there is a place for them in the UFC. As far as for myself, going back down to atom weight, if I were to do it, it would definitely have to be worth my while. Moving up to strawweight, coming into the UFC, I just remember telling myself when I was still in atom weight, like, look, Michelle, if you're gonna go into the UFC and fight these girls at 115 and try to be the champ, like, that's it. You're a strawweight. There's no excuses. You can't say, oh, well, she was bigger than me, blah, 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 blah. I used to fight at atom weight, blah, 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 blah. No. You decided to move to the UFC to fight at strawweight, to fight the best girls at strawweight, so you're a strawweight. And when I made that decision, I really put in a lot of effort into putting a lot of muscle on and making sure that I could hang with these girls. And I think I've fared really well. I fought almost, all the girls in the top of the division since I've been in the UFC, and I'm still here in the top 10. So I think I'm doing something right.
Absolutely. And I had that feeling too. You definitely look stronger and like you've got some more muscle than you did 5 years ago, or especially like 8 or 10 years ago. And so I think I was right in that situation. I guess, although the answer is you could make it, but yeah, it would have to be worth your while. That makes sense. And
if they were to do a tough show and the coaches were going to fight for the belt after the tough show, and I could coach the 105 division with a new roster, I think that would be amazing, and that would definitely be incentive enough for me to buckle down and get my butt back into atom weight. Dude, I would have to cut so much muscle if I cut back down to
yeah. And that's not something that anyone really wants to do that often, and I guess it's not talked about much, but I guess coming from like an exercise and bodybuilding martial arts background that I have, it would pretty much essentially be like way upping your cardio, lowering your weights, lowering your protein and calories, right? And you'd essentially be burning muscle, which you can do, and I guess it wouldn't be necessarily unhealthy, but people hate to do that, don't they?
Well, it just takes forever to put muscle on, like good, strong muscle. It takes forever. And maybe it's just in my case, but it really is. It takes a lot of effort to put good muscle on, and so I'd hate for all that to go to waste.
Yep, absolutely. So let me get your pin in. Recently, there have been a lot of retirements after fights in the UFC. I think more in the summer of 2022 than I've probably ever seen. It seems literally almost every other Saturday, someone's putting their gloves on the cage floor. I think the first recently was Felice Herrig, who I know you were in Fight Girls with. Remember, I watched that live when it was on, right? And then you had Joanna Jędrzejczyk, another opponent of yours, as Felice was. And then you had Cowboy, who trained over at Jackson Wink for a long. So it's funny, all three of those retirements have some relationship to you, Michelle Waterson. That's interesting. So can I get your thoughts on those 3 retirements and those 3 people, and if you feel it made sense, it was the right decision, and maybe some positive thought of each of those people that you have.
I never really put it together that way.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, it is really interesting that I am tied to all of those people. You're right. I was on the Fight Girl show with Felice. Both of us, I would proudly say that the two of us are some pioneers for the female division
Yeah, hell yeah.
for females in MMA, in martial arts, really. And I wish her the best of luck, and I do understand that it is a tough road. Um, Sometimes you have to know when to bow out, and for her, I wish her the best of luck. And it really is, I think, something that all fighters grapple with. When is the right time to leave, and what is the next chapter of my life gonna look like? So for Felice, I wish her the best. I know that she suffered a string of injuries, and that was really frustrating for her. But she's an amazing athlete, and she's always really taking care of her body. And I know that whatever she decides to do, she'll be good at. With Joanna, I wasn't surprised. She's been living her life and loving it, and really thriving in other aspects of her life, and in her other career choices. She's, like she said, she wants to be a mom, and she wants to be a businesswoman. And I think that's a hard choice as a female fighter. Is like, especially if you don't have any children, is like, when can I start my family?
Yeah.
And the time doesn't, you don't get any younger.
Right. Right.
And it is a tough decision to make. And for her to bow out and step away, I think she did it in such a graceful way that you can't be upset with that. And she's done so much for the sport and for females in the MMA arena, that she can walk away with her head held high. She's the longest reigning strawweight champion. She was a killer when she needed to be a killer.
Absolutely.
And I think she's just really fallen in love with the next chapter of her life. And I'm really excited to see what she does, because you can see how excited she is through her social media posts, and just how driven of a person she is, even outside of fighting. So I look forward to seeing her career
Absolutely.
Outside of fighting.
Definitely.
And then with Donald, he's the one that got me into fighting. I remember I was a ring girl, watching him fight, and
Cowboy. Right.
yeah, talking to the promoter and asking the promoter if I could fight. And he I don't think he really took me seriously.
Right.
And it was Donald that was like, hey, if you're serious about fighting, get your ass in the gym. And he kind of took me under his wing. And it was Donald that gave me the kind of
belief.
Basically, I think I was a very tentative, cautious person before I met Donald. And Donald kind of just has like that free spirit where he's just like, why not? Just do it type of person. And just watching him just do it. I mean, I wouldn't say just do it. He has that F it personality.
Right.
So when he says F it, I'm like, all right, F it. So he gave me that. And it has been so cool to see that even though we're on two separate journeys, that we kind of were able to ride this wave, and I wish him nothing but the best. And I do think it was weird to see him bow out like that, but for sure, I think that, he hit it on the nail. Like, you shouldn't be doing this stuff if you're not completely in love with it, because it can be dangerous.
Yes. Yes. Very true. I remember, and not to jump off from Cowboy, and that is such a cool story. I think a lot of people, most of us didn't know that Donald Cowboy Cerrone was a huge part in giving you the confidence to have a career in MMA, and that's so awesome. I'm going to come back to that, but touching on what you just said about what he said, that yeah, if your heart isn't into it. I remember Mike Tyson way back, and I was really young, so let's just say I'm not old as a fossil now, but I was young enough. I was watching boxing, and I remember when Mike Tyson retired, he started to lose, and then I remember one of the statements he made when he retired was he said, "I just don't have the heart for this anymore." Like he didn't have a desire to hit anyone. He didn't feel like finishing anyone, and that comes from a guy who early in his career he put out the quote that said, "I want to hit someone so hard that I knock their nose bone back through their brain." That was, yeah. You were probably not born yet, I think, when he said that, but he literally said that. They said, "Mike, you're out there with such ferocity. Like, what's in your mind?" And he said, "I just want to knock someone's nose bone right through their brain." He was into it that much. He was like, he wanted to succeed. He wanted to destroy, and then all of a sudden, 15 years later, I don't have the heart for this. And it makes sense. And then it's because if you're seeing that in the fighting business, then you got to get out. It's funny, that reminds me of a hilarious story. I'll tell you really quick, really briefly. I think when I was in my late 20s, a buddy of mine and I were big combat sports fans, and he was an apartment manager, and he had a big, strong guy in his late 20s, really fit, great genetics, come in to his apartment. And he started talking fights, and the guy was, saying, yeah, I like fights. And he said, "How about you could be a fighter? You look like a fighter." And the guy said, "Well, I guess I could. I played some football, and I kind of could throw some hands." And he said, "Okay, look." And he said, "Me and my buddy across the street, Colin, we're going to be your managers, and you're going to be a fighter." And the guy was like, "Oh, cool, awesome." And here we were, like, guys in our 20s, and I was like, what do I know about fight managing? And my buddy said, "Well, you're a big fight fan, aren't you? You could be a manager." And I was like, "I guess. I mean, I'll try." So we got this guy a gym membership, and he was showing up a little bit, but then he started not showing up, and he was trying to also be like a model and a comedian as well. And then one day, instead of showing up for boxing training, my buddy went out to a club, and he was on stage doing comedy with a 40 in his hand that he was drinking out of. And my buddy said, "Weren't you supposed to be down in the gym?" Right? And he said, "Yeah, man, I'll be in the gym, but I also want to be a model, an actor, and a comedian." And we said, we got together and we said, "Look, man, if you're thinking you're going to be a heavyweight boxer or an MMA, and you're going to try to also be a comedian and a actor and this, you're going to just get your brains knocked out."
Right.
I said, we may not know anything about being a fight manager or even a fight trainer, but yeah, it's not a career to not be serious about and to think that you're just going to kind of go in half-assed, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime a person gets injured or hurt, I think a lot of it has to do with not being able to focus, not being able to get in that zone. And not, being halfway in and halfway out. It's very dangerous, and I think sometimes you can forget that because people tune in to watch it on, ABC, like we will be doing this weekend. But it is a very dangerous sport with very dangerous consequences, and if you don't have the heart to stomach that, then it shows in your performance, and it's just one of those things. You can only ride the tires for so long.
Exactly. And he rode him, and he had an amazing career. He was such a great fighter. He would show up against anyone, anytime, different weight classes, and absolutely a stud. And then he said he's going to become a movie star, and I hope he will, because that would be a great transition for him. The guy has so much personality and such a character. I mean, I also think you could be in the movies as well. You have that personality. you're better looking than Donald Cerrone for sure. But he's not a good looking guy. But comparing a beautiful woman to Donald Cerrone is a huge difference, you know. But I hope he does it. I think he was recently in a movie. Another tie-in to you, Michelle Waterson. He was recently in a movie with Gina Carano, who was the coach at Fight Girls. Have you had any contact with her since 15 years ago, or what's your thoughts about Gina Carano?
I love Gina. She's the sweetest person. She really is. And it's so funny. Most fighters are the sweetest people, and it's
Definitely.
because they fight.
Yep.
You know, fighting humbles you because there's always somebody bigger and badder than you.
Right.
And I love that, you know, the two of them connected and was able to do the movie. I actually just watched the movie the other day, and it was great. And I look forward to both of their careers, and I support both of their careers. And I think the reason why fighters are you know, fighters are drawn to movies is because when you fight, you are, even though it's mixed martial arts and people think that it's like this very barbaric thing, to me it's art. To me it's, you know, the canvas is the octagon. You know, our medium of choice are our weapons, you know, our limbs, our hands, and within that 15 to 25 window we're creating art. And you know, just kind of mirroring that to movies. Movies are art. Movies inspire. Movies can change somebody's life because of the story that you tell.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the connection that the fighters have with doing movies.
I would agree. Absolutely. And then you guys also have the experience of being on the stage, being in front of so many people, and having to perform and having to pull that intensity out of you. And so, yeah, I think a lot of you are naturals. Not everyone, but I think that, you know, a lot of good actors can come from being in the position of being a high-level fighter. You know, a funny thing, I was remembering the last Gina fight against Chris Cyborg, and I was watching with several friends, and I had a buddy of mine who was Italian-American, as was his girlfriend. And we actually watched, they showed the weigh-ins, I think, which were the day before, real quickly before the fight. And a friend of mine's girlfriend, she's Italian-American like Gina, she said, I know why she's laughing, because Gina was kind of laughing when she was weighing in and she was all shredded. And I said, why? And she said, because she knows she's never going to be in this shape for the rest of her life. Right. And I said, I don't know. I said, I guess that could be, you know, but yeah, because she's a tall girl, like 5'8.5", and she's kind of thick, and you know, she was just shredded. You know, I got a lot of friends that are Italian, you know, and not always the most skinny people with, you know, but you know, definitely, yeah. So I have a feeling that may have been the last time that Gina was able to see all 6 abs on her body. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. She's not fat, but she was. You do get to be in your best shape when you're about to have a professional MMA fight, don't you?
Right, absolutely. I was just listening to her podcast with Joe Rogan, and it's funny because she was saying like that's what would get her motivated to get into shape was fighting, and she was talking about even, you know, entertaining the idea that maybe she would come back to fight Ronda, just to motivate her to get back into shape.
Right,
you know?
right. Because I remember her story from, I think, Fight Girls, where she said that it was the guy that your coach from that Fight Girls, Master Toddy, when she met him through her boyfriend, who I think was also an MMA fighter. You probably remember that story. And she said she went in there because he wanted to fight, and she was just in there to work out. And she asked him about fighting, and he said, "Oh, girl, you're fat." And she said, right? And she said a little Thai man just called her fat, and she said she couldn't, you know, have that tag stay on her, and that kind of really motivated her to get in shape. Remember that story?
Yeah, Thai people have no filter, you know, and it's from a place of love. But I mean, that might be why I'm also okay with negative criticism, because that's what I grew up with as having a Thai mom. It was, you know, it was always something that I was doing wrong.
Right. And I know you love your mom. I remember you always have done good impressions of your mom. Does that continue, or have you stopped that?
Oh yeah, we got Master Yaya in the house. She's always there, and you know, I have all these stories and
nice.
Yeah, and it's funny because when people like hear it, they laugh and they think it's funny, but then they meet her and they're like, "Oh my
It's
gosh,
dead on, right?
you were spot on."
I remember one time she was mad because you got your ass kicked, and she, instead of her feeling sorry for you, she's like mad at you. What did you do? You get your ass kicked. You know? So, but hey, I mean,
Yes,
right?
yeah, it's so fun. I was trying to explain to her mom, like, fighting is hard. I know people from the outside, when they look, they're like, "Oh," and she's like, "Why don't you just move your head, okay? Why don't you just be smart? Don't get hit and attack and hit them."
I
I'm
love it.
like, "Well, if it was that easy."
Right, exactly. If it was just that simple to do, then everyone would be the world champion. And yeah, it's not.
Right.
It's easier said than done, that is for sure. Let me ask you, you have a daughter. I would guess, I'm usually really good with numbers. Let's see how good I do. Based on how many years you've shown your daughter, she's probably got to be like, what, 6? Am I close?
She's 11.
Oh my God, you're kidding me. Has time flown? Lord, I wasn't even close. So, wow, because I remember you started kind of videoing her when she was like 1 or something, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been fighting. I've been fighting professionally for 15 years. 16.
That's right. And so, what are her thoughts now? Any thoughts on fighting, or one, even more importantly, is she serious about physical fitness and kind of connected to that? Are you one that really wants to insist that she get in really great shape, or does she want to, or what does she want to do, and how much do you feel like you want to get involved to kind of nudge her to really take fitness and martial arts seriously?
Well, I think it's important as a parent to teach your children about being physically fit, because it goes hand in hand with being emotionally fit, and also like nutritionally. Like, I think it's important to teach them how to be healthy as well, and all of those things go hand in hand. If you aren't physically fit, then your brain is foggy. You're not able to function. You have no motivation. The best way to teach anybody to have any type of mental endurance or grit, is what some people might call it, in my opinion, is through physical pain.
Yeah, right.
And you know, with everything being so easily accessible, and with the children having technology, and my daughter being an only child, uh, life can tend to be really easy. And so I think through sports, that is how she would learn how to deal with adversity. She's not interested in fighting. She's been she's been a gym baby since before she was born.
Right.
She was in my belly, at the gym.
Yep.
And so she knows everything. She could definitely be an analyst if she ever wanted to, because she knows everything about fighting, but she's not interested in fighting. It's just not something that piques her interest, and I'm not going to force her to do it, because it's dangerous if you try to force somebody to do something that they're not passionate about.
Absolutely. Is she?
But
Go ahead.
She does do jujitsu. We just opened up a jujitsu school with my professor, and she has been going, and she really does enjoy it. And
Awesome.
I think jujitsu is such a gentle sport. It can be. Jiu-jitsu is like water. It can be gentle, or it can crash.
Yes.
And so and you get to dictate the pace. And so she really enjoys that, and I think it can lend to understanding strategy. It can lend to teamwork, patience, humbling yourself, a lot of different things. But she's really passionate about gymnastics, and she's been doing that since she was 3, and is now competing. And watching her have to deal with the pressures of competition has been really hard for me, because I'm an athlete and
Right.
a competitor myself, and sometimes I just want to try to give her the answers, and just by me giving her the answers isn't going to let her get on the podium.
Right.
She has to discover all those things on her own.
Right.
She has to figure out what makes her tick, what what gets her in the zone, what is going, if it's something that she's passionate enough to be competitive about. So all those things you learn through sport, which is, I think, is very important.
Absolutely. And she's probably got some good genetics, and then with that work ethic that she's probably learned from you, is probably helping her a lot as well. And so yeah, I'm sure she's in a good position to do a lot of good things. And she probably gets a laugh if you've shown her the stuff of her on video from when she was 4 or 5, or maybe she can't stand it. I don't know which.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool. It's really cool to see her progression. And what excites me is to see how determined she is to get better, when she does fall. And I know it's hard as a parent to see your children fail, but I think you need to put things in front of them that are hard, because that's the only way that they will become stronger.
Absolutely. Very well stated. Well, we only got about 5 more minutes with you, Michelle. And so for that 5 minutes, want to talk about your big fight coming up, co-main event, Amanda Lemos. It's going to be an amazingly good fight. I'm sure you're looking forward to it. It's funny. A friend of mine said, if life gives you lemon, make lemonade. So if life's giving you Lemos, you got to make lemonade, right? That's but or you could say that in her last fight, Jessica Andrade really squeezed the Lemos and definitely put some lemonade on the ring floor. But I think you're going to be looking more to bust up the Lemos and make some. I don't know. I'm just getting wacky here. All respect to Amanda Lemos. She is an amazing fighter. But this is an exciting fight. I'm sure you're looking forward to it. What kind of challenge do you think this presents to you, and what excites you about this match?
I think that she is a well-rounded fighter with heavy hands, and I think it lends to a very exciting fight. Both of us are really good stand-up fighters with good dexterity on both stances. She likes to switch stances, and so I think it's going to lend to a high-paced 3-round match of kickboxing. And but the thing is, I do believe that my tools just outmatch her tools. So I'm really excited to put those tools out there for the world to see.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be an amazing fight. So many good fights on that card. If I could ask my producer to give me kind of a wider glance of the fight card above there, and then we'll see the entire fight card. And main event, Yair and Brian Ortega. How sick is that fight going to be, right? And here we go. Lauren Murphy and Miesha Tate. That is going to be very interesting. Now, let me ask you this. Most fighters don't mind giving me an opinion. One fighter once told me I don't really want to talk about anyone that I might see in the locker room or something like that. Although I have a feeling with you being an OG, respected, no one's going to try to go over and set you straight. Plus, I don't think you talk trash. But could I have your opinion maybe as a commentator, knowing these fighters well? Miesha Tate at her flyweight debut against Lauren Murphy. What do you think are some of the things we should look out for as fans in that fight, and how do you think that might unfold?
I think that's a great matchup stylistically. Both of the girls, to me, what stands out with both of those girls is their heart, grit, and determination. So to me, I think that fight's going to go the distance. I think Misha's wrestling might outmatch Lauren's just slightly.
Makes sense. And the weight cut she should be able to do. I mean, it's so amazing after having kids like you have a child and you're amazingly shredded and in great shape. Going down in weight is a trip though, but I guess Miesha can do it. You don't have too much fear or doubt.
Well, I don't know. This is the first time I'll see her going down to 125, but I think that, when you birth children, all of our bodies react differently to it. I think, it was a benefit for Mackenzie Dern, when after she had her daughter, she became a lot more lean and more vascular.
Right.
And I not just like physically, but I just think that something switched in her head mentally, after having her daughter that kind of kicked her into second gear. And who knows, maybe the same thing happened with Misha as far as, getting a new sense of motivation, and a sense of pride in your career, and what you could possibly do as a mother.
Absolutely makes sense. And last question, the main event. Even as someone that's watched MMA from the beginning, even as someone that's trained jiu-jitsu as I have, purple belt, maybe I'll get brown if my body doesn't break down, although I haven't trained for a while, so I may never. But, and then I trained in stand-up karate for several years, never a pro, but always in small tournaments in the gym. But even with the knowledge that I have, I am stumped on this main event because Yair is so unorthodox. He's such a great striker. I really believed he would do well against Max Holloway in that fight a year ago, even though he was 5-1 dog. He did so well. He's such a beast. But Brian Ortega is so much more comfortable on the ground. You, as a fighter who started out as a striker and became really comfortable on the ground, I think would be one of the people most qualified to give your thoughts here. Can you give us some insight that maybe we may not be seeing about what are a couple of the ways you think that fight could unfold and what we're looking at possibly as a result?
Well, I think both of the fighters are really amazing, and Yair had been a training partner of mine for a really long time. So I might be a little biased when I give this opinion,
right.
But it's because I've trained with Yair and I haven't trained with Ortega, so it would be just from the outside looking in. But Ortega is really slick on the ground, but the problem is that you start the fight standing. And Yair's wrestling is phenomenal. He has a very unorthodox way about him. But what makes his wrestling so good is that he's really good at scrambles, and there's never a second that goes by that he doesn't allow you to sink in any shots or settle into any type of dominant position. So I just think that Yair is going to have a lot more freedom to be creative with all of his tools.
Absolutely. I kind of think so too. And he's a slight dog, but I think this may be Yair's fight. It's going to be a hell of an amazing battle, that's for sure. Well, let us know, Michelle Waterston, if there's any merch you have or got a website going, anything you have going, let us know where people can find you and support you.
Absolutely, I have merch. It's just really, really easy. MichelleWaterston.com. Head over there. We got some really cool shirts because I am a fight mom. We got some shirts that say "I love hot moms" because I'm the karate hottie.
Absolutely.
We have a shirt that says "Beautiful Violence" because that's what I think MMA is. It's beautiful violence. Some mom champ shirts. We got a lot of cool stuff over there. So if you want to show your love and support, go ahead and head over to MichelleWaterston.com, and I'm probably most active on Instagram, but I'm trying to figure out this whole TikTok thing, so I'm on TikTok as well. But yeah, just enjoying the ride, guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you and a shout out to your husband, Josh. He is awesome. And you are so awesome, Michelle. I've been following you from the beginning when I go back and mention Fight Girl. So it's always a thrill chatting with you. It's so nice of you and so much appreciated by me and our team that you join us in the MMA Power Hour. I want to thank you so much from my heart. Really appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Have a great night.
You too.
Thanks. And that was the karate hottie, Michelle Waterston. Dr. Adam Roorda, how cool is it to chat with her? And so much amazing insight. I love that interview, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And she's always so cool to come in. Listen, she's done this twice now for us. Fight week.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we've had her on, I think, 4, 5, 6 times even in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I don't think we had her on the first year, but yeah, during fight week, it's amazing. She's got so much class and so mumuch poise, and it makes my job so easily. When I say great interview, I'm not patting myself on the back. She made it super, super easy, and all the insights she shared, she made me look good as an interviewer, but more importantly, I think she was entertaining and really forthcoming with a lot of information. And I really like Michelle. Josh is awesome, her husband. I want to see her win. I want to see her make some more Lemos, squeeze the Lemos and bust up the Lemos and make some more Lemonade. And I think that will happen, don't you? And she's a 3-1 dog.
Yep.
So yeah, big thank you.
I really do. I think she's got that one. That's a good bet to come in on.
Yep.
Yep.
Michelle, look at the odds there. Well, yeah, about 3-1.
About
yeah.
3-1.
Yep.
I'm in on that one.
Yeah, I like it. And she deserves it. She's worked so hard for so many years.
I'm going to go ahead and go straight into our next
Yes,
guest
let's do it.
Hey, what's up, guy?
Hey, all good. Josh, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Alrighty.
All right, beautiful. Whenever you can, if you could hit that video button below you, we will be perfect and good to go.
Okay, I'm just kind of stuck right now.
No problem. Excellent. Really.
I didn't want to cancel on you again. I feel like every Tuesday I keep going to dinner, so I just left the restaurant and came outside for a little.
I really appreciate you, man. We won't keep you. Is maybe 15-20 minutes all right or so?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. I really appreciate you doing it, man. And I know things are crazy. I mean, one of the good things is the more you win in the UFC, the more demand you're in, and people who are working with you really need your time. So I understand how crazy it is. Really appreciate it that you come on. And for those watching, I always do an official introduction. The man I'm talking to is none other than number 3 ranked UFC featherweight, Mr. Josh Emmett. So glad to have you back on the show, Josh. Appreciate you making the time.
Yeah, great to be here.
No problem. So we just had a good interview with Michelle Waterson, the karate hottie. She's going to be on the card. And have you ever met her? She's a really nice girl.
Yeah, no, Michelle's awesome. You know, I fought on a few cards with her, and always been a fan of her. She's such a nice woman and super talented as well.
Without a doubt, she is so cool, and we just went over a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm really happy to have you and Michelle on this episode. You know, a bunch of people are going to be watching, and I really enjoy it. And so, man, so much good stuff, Josh. I was looking at your fight record. I was looking back at when we first had you, and it was either before or after the Michael Johnson fight or before the Bektik fight. I'm not sure. I think it might have been just after the Johnson fight. But so this is going back about 4 years. And I know that since then, sometimes we've had you on before a fight, sometimes after. And then with the Burgos fight, I was there in person. And I think it was the Apex, and talked to you right then. And it's been fantastic seeing you keep winning. And you've had to deal with all these brutal injuries, and you just kept on ticking, man. I mean, like a lot of guys eventually can't get past the injuries and end up going by the wayside. And you were just determined, man. And it's like, you know, this was a big one though. This Calvin Kattar fight was big. All your fights are big, but the thing with Kattar is he had been fighting a lot. He didn't have any injuries, and I think he was kind of more prevalent in a lot of people's mind, right? And the purists know you, but a lot of these younger, fans were not seeing you as much as Kattar. So it seems like they kind of had Kattar 2-1 favorite because it seemed like he had been in people's face more from fighting. And so going into that fight, what was your feeling? Did you care if you were a little bit of an underdog? Did you kind of feel the kind of enormity of this fight? I know you're a real chill guy, but this fight was like the fight that I think was finally going to get people to shut up and put some respect on your name.
Yeah, you know, it's I'm always the underdog, so it's like going into that fight. You know, I don't know who makes these lines. I don't know who's who makes the line. So it was nothing new to me. But it makes no difference. You know what I mean? Like, it's just someone else's opinion, and the people making those lines, they've never seen me train. They know nothing about me. So I like being that underdog. You know what I mean? Because I make my friends a lot of money, and I make the other people, like the fans that believe in me and not the casuals, I make them a lot of money as well. So
yep.
It's another fight. And we're in the main event. I know people talk about pressure and stuff, but it's the exact same thing. We do our out in the morning, we report at the hotel, and then we go to the arena, and backstage warming up, we walk out fight. So whether I'm the first fight on the card or I'm the last one, it's the exact same thing. It's just another. But I knew it would kind of start things off. I knew it would kind of put me on the map, to get me, kind of not fast track, because I've I've had a long career and I fought like the best of the best. Like I have a good resume and I continue to beat these guys. So, but I knew it'd get me to the title a lot quicker with a win over Calvin Kattar. And I went out and did what I was supposed to do, and that was get my hand raised.
Absolutely. And I remember way back when you first started and Uriah Faber threw out your name. I think you had maybe had one win in the UFC, and Uriah was saying, we got Josh Emmett here, and people are like, Josh Emmett, who is that? And Uriah was there shouting you out. And it just seems like he always has a really good eye for guys that are going to be really successful fighters, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, I feel like Uriah has a good eye for talent. Look at the guys that a while ago. World.
Sorry to interrupt you, Josh. My producer is telling me you're breaking up. I know there's not so much different places you can go, but I think where you're standing right now is coming through really staticky.
How's that a little better?
Yeah, this sounds a little bit better. So sorry to interrupt you. Can you repeat?
Oh, it's all. Yeah, no, not the purpose out here. I'm out here in Seattle because one of my good friends, he just had eye surgery yesterday, so I flew out here to help him appointment, follow-ups and stuff like that for a few days.
That's cool. Cool to support a friend.
But, yeah, like I was saying, Uriah has a good eye for talent. That he built one of the best gyms for the lighter weights in the world in my backyard of Sacramento. So I'm really grateful for Uriah for doing that. I'm grateful that talented teammates and friends in the gym year round. So it's like it is cool that Uriah recognized that a long time ago when I first started coming into the gym. And once I was like 1-0 as a professional fighter, not 1-0 in the UFC, telling me one of the best fighters in the world, just no one knows it yet, and that was like back over a decade ago. So it's pretty crazy for his eye for talent. Absolutely,
really, really a sharp guy, and definitely knows how to put together a great team. So many great people and coaches there, and that was definitely an amazing effort. So the week after your fight was Max against Volkanovski, or was that 2 weeks after?
It was 2 weeks after my fight.
Gotcha. So that fight was interesting. Let me tell you something I haven't put out there yet, and I know people want to hear what you have to say a lot more than what I have to say, although I know I have some fans. Something about the way Max looked in the media interviews before that fight, I don't know if you noticed it, but something about the way Max looked, I don't know if it's just that his hair was longer than usual and kind of messy, but something looked strange to me. I mean, it's easy to say after the fact, but something about Max seemed almost like he wasn't feeling well, or like he moved kind of not as smooth as he used to move, or like he had, and he's not that old a guy, but did you notice anything like that if you were watching any of the media leading up to the fight?
Yeah, I don't watch a whole lot of the media and stuff like that, but I saw like a thing on Instagram, just a little thing. But because Max is a big guy, he's a tall guy. He's an Islander. So like sucked up at the time, but who knows?
Yeah, let me ask.
At the end of the day, people, man, sometimes like when we fight, you have to be 100%, and sometimes we're not. You know what I mean? So who knows what going through or dealing with. Maybe he was on, maybe he wasn't, but only really that.
Right, and he has a good sense of humor. He put out like an Instagram post or something, I think it said, well, we know now that we got to have the fourth fight, and then he put, just kidding, great fight for Alex Volkanovski, and so it's cool he has a sense of humor, but yeah, that didn't, that kind of surprised people. Alex looked really good though. Let me ask a quick question before we go on, because you were breaking up a little bit more, and it's definitely, we're hardwired, so I know, like you said, it's over at your end. I want to see if my producer feels that if we call back, would that help the connection at all? And he just said no. Okay, no problem. But we do get you good and clear at some points. But let me ask you this, Josh. So that fight, Alex looked fantastic, and he's getting a lot of credit. And whether Max was his best or not, either way, Alex looked great. The first thing he did was say he was going up in weight. And so, as a fighter, I guess just because you say something, excuse me, doesn't mean that you're making any sort of a contract that you'll never fight at featherweight again. But what do you think Alex's thoughts are? My thoughts are, like, you're right up there in line, and then I think there's Ortega against Yair, which is this Saturday. And if Ortega wins, for sure, Alex won't want to fight him again because he beat him already. So I had two thoughts, and I'm curious to see what you think. If Ortega wins, then Alex has either got to fight you or he's going to go up in weight, like he said. If Rodriguez wins, then I guess he could decide whether he fights you or Rodriguez, or he might go up in weight anyway. As one fighter looking at another fighter, I don't know that you know Alex Volkanovski personally, but what do you think? When he said it on TV, does this mean that for the time being he's done at featherweight, or is he going to be watching this fight this Saturday and thinking about you and maybe the winner of that fight?
Yeah. Does, yeah, but like I get where he's coming from. You know, he's trying to maximizing it the biggest day he possibly can. I don't think it goes up to fives right now, because Oliveira's I heard fight someone else later on down the road before he were to be able to do that. I know he said he cleaned out the division. There's one fight left. You know, he hasn't cleaned out the division yet. So you know, I say he fights me. To him, I also feel that you know, I deserve the next title shot. 5-fight winning streak. I beat guys in the top 10, the top 5. I beat everyone, even depending on what happens this week with this fight. Those guys have both fought the top guys. So whoever wins on Saturday would only be on a 1-fight winning streak. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense in my book. You know, it's a popularity contest, but I'm like, if people want to see exciting fights, I feel like I have the speed, I have the power, and I know I have the wrestling advantage. So I think he's just, you know, Volkanovski just has a blueprint to beat everyone in the division but me. So I'm waiting for him to, you know, say he's down to fight me, sign the contract, and then I'll go anywhere in the world, anytime. So I think that is the fight to make. I think the fans want to see it, and you know, we'll have to wait and hear from him.
Absolutely, and it makes sense. And I just kind of thought about it, and you're right. Even if Yair beats Ortega, Yair kind of lost fairly clearly to Max, and you know, Alex has beaten Max 3 times. So if you do the math that way, and the fact that you're right, Yair would only be on a 1-fight win streak, it should definitely be you. That would be interesting. Here's a suggestion. Keep this in mind. I know comedy doesn't pay a big place in MMA. It's a very serious sport, but I know a lot of you guys have a sense of humor. If you get the fight and it's in Australia, promise me you'll try to talk in an Australian accent when you're over there, just to see what Alex does. You got to admit, that would be pretty unexpected, wouldn't it?
I'll give it a shot, but my like different you know, accents, and I'm horrible at it. Like she's really good at it, but it's she gives me a lot of shit just so bad at it. But I'll give it a shot for sure.
I appreciate that. Well, I tell you what, I won't keep you much longer because I want to let you get back to dinner, but I know that the whole thing that I want you to know is that we support you. We always have. Our whole team is so happy to see you succeed, and it was an amazing performance over Cater. We definitely agree you deserve the shot. Hope that you do get that soon. But since the fight is coming up Saturday, may I have your thoughts on how this fight happens, the main event, Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega. Can you give me maybe a couple different scenarios that you think could be the way the fight goes, and maybe some interesting things for us to look at as fans that we may not have thought of, but that you're thinking of as a professional UFC featherweight top-ranked fighter?
Yeah, I think like back off the fence and circle away from the fence. And fast, elusive. I could see getting shot down. big featherweight that has power. So I feel like if he catches something and hurts him early, maybe he can get into the clinch, maybe get him up against the cage, dirty box, get him to the ground, or got hurt. Hard to pick, man. I hate picking fights because I can argue how both guys win, but I figure we'll find out fairly quick. And I always like to see before I make a lot of like real predictions, as if I were gonna bet on something. I wait until the weight. I like to see like where the guys' weights are, how they look, their demeanor, things like that, and then I kind of make a selection from there. But just going off of like what we don't know. Man, it's so hard because like I can see ways that both guys win this fight.
Absolutely. And we actually heard like all of the last minute of your talking, but we didn't hear a lot of the first minute. But it sounds like you're kind of on the fence. It just depends on what can happen. More of the grappling advantage for Ortega, the striking for Yair Rodriguez. It's so hard to pick a winner. Does it matter to you which fighter would you say that you like better, if there is one, or that you've been impressed more with in the past?
No, I don't know them, so it's like they're both great fighters, phenomenal fighters. They're in the top of the division, top three. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the fight.
Does it make sense that, sorry to interrupt you, but I couldn't hear you there. Does it make sense that Yair is about a 2-to-1, 2.5-to-1 underdog? Would that kind of make sense to you?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, who knows? It's like a pick. Like I say, if Ortega can get his hands on it, I feel like he has some of the best jiu-jitsu in the entire UFC. So who knows? Like who can land a harder shot, maybe, and hurt him? It's a 5-round fight. 25 minutes is a long time to fight somebody. So anything can happen within the first few rounds. But I think the longer the fight goes, they're both going to be in great shape. It depends if there's more wrestling exchanges or scrambles. Then I think Ortega has the advantage, definitely. But if it's just a stand-up battle, then I'm leaning more towards Yair.
Absolutely makes sense. I really appreciate it. Well, Josh Emmett, I really appreciate you. I think you're Josh Emmett everywhere on social media, right?
Yeah, Josh Emmett.
Sounds good. I really appreciate you, Josh. Congratulations on that last victory. Can't wait to see you get that title shot against Alex Volkanovski. I think you match up with him well, and we really appreciate you taking the time to jump back on the MMA Power Hour.
All right, you guys take care.
You too. Have a great night. Thanks. Bye-bye. So, Dr. Adam Roorda, great to see Josh. Unfortunately, the connection was bad. For those of you watching, we don't want you to think that was the fault of our staff or Dr. Adam Roorda.
No fault to Mr. Emmett either. He's in a hospital, and he did what he could to make the fight. We heard most of what he was saying.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to keep up with.
Yeah, I'm glad it was coming through at some points.
Yeah.
But yeah, we exactly. We're not going to blame. I was going to say we're not blaming us, but we're not going to blame Josh. He did the best he could. But just so you guys know, he did admit that he could tell reception was not good where he was, but there was nowhere else to go. He was out there helping to support a friend who just had surgery, which is really cool. I mean, that's like a lot of times you figure a guy who's in the top 5 now in the UFC may be worrying about handling his own business and may not fly out somewhere to support a friend who has eye surgery. And
but he's not one of those guys.
Right.
I mean, he's come on our show a few times now, and he's always shown nothing but class.
He is.
I really enjoy
guy.
Emmett, and he deserves that title shot.
Yeah, he does. He does. That would be just a great fight because he does have the wrestling advantage over Alex Volkanovski. Not a lot of the fighters that Alex fights has that wrestling advantage. Because Alex is good. For a guy that didn't grow up in the American collegiate wrestling system, he's about as good as you get for a guy that's a non-American or wasn't somehow on the Olympic team in his country. His wrestling is solid. Josh is better. Alex's hands are good. You saw him pop, and piece up Max, but he really never staggered him, really. Josh has that power to be able to finish you with a punch. But Alex is also so dynamic. Josh actually would be about, I think, maybe an inch taller. They'd be pretty close. for the first time, Josh wouldn't be giving away like 2, 3, 4, 5 inches of height in a fight. It would be a banger. I mean, and like Josh said, Volkanovski feels he's cleaned out the division. He really hasn't. He hasn't fought Josh Emmett. And so that would be an amazing fight. I do think also, and Josh made a good point, Alex, I think, wanted to go up in weight, and he was thinking maybe somehow he could get a fight with a top 3 guy right away. But apparently Charles Oliveira is going to be fighting with Islam Makhachev, and Josh, I think, felt that Alex was going to then not be in such a hurry to go up there when he realized that the top couple guys were already going to be previously engaged in a contract to fight each other. So I kind of agree. I mean, Adam, if you really look at it, Alex is a tough guy. I mean, it's almost like if Max had done what Alex had done, but then Max went up and he also showed the weight and the power difference with the Dustin Poirier was too much. But Alex is a short featherweight, but then Josh is also kind of a short featherweight. But Josh isn't talking about going up to lightweight. For Alex to go up to lightweight, he'll be a really short lightweight. And I think everyone knows that he played rugby in Australia at like 220 pounds. And he may have been a little bit fatty, but he was a muscle, like a little, pile of muscle then. And now he's fighting at 145 from competing in sports at 220. And so he's a thick guy. He cuts a lot of weight. And I think he said he'd keep around the same weight. But man, Alex is a beast. He's beaten everyone pretty much except for Josh. He hasn't fought Yair. He didn't fight Zabit, but Zabit is retired. But what's your thought, Adam, when you start thinking of a 5'6" Alexander Volkanovski against guys like Beneil Dariush, Islam Makhachev, Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler, Gregor Gillespie, guys like that, Justin Gaethje? I mean, it's a little scary to think of that, isn't it?
It's way too scary to think of that.
Maybe not a good idea.
No, it's not a good idea. You're talking about a whole new class.
Yeah, just big, strong guys that are really technical. So, and I'll tell you what, not that Alex would have an easy time against Josh, but at least he's not going up against someone a lot bigger. But Alex is a tough dude, but I think he will fight Josh, and I think he should fight Josh, don't you?
Yeah, I also think that's scary for Volkanovski too.
The Josh fight, yeah, oh yeah, But I'll tell you, Alex,
Josh is just starting to show he's at his prime. I think he's going to go on a tear here. I think he is going to be champion, and I think he should just be thrown in right now.
Yeah,
because he deserves it, and quite frankly, he's a beast. Yeah,
and the thing he pointed out that I hadn't thought of was that Alex did beat Brian Ortega in about a year ago. Ortega had his moments, and he actually almost submitted Alex once or twice. But still, I think it ended up being Alex winning like 3 rounds, 1 round a draw, and 1 round Ortega. So it was fairly clear decision. And so if Brian Ortega beats Yair, no way. There's no reason for Alex to give him the shot. If Yair wins, though, I kind of had posed the question to Josh. Maybe Alex would look at both Yair and Josh, but Josh pointed out something that Yair would only be on a 1-fight win streak if he wins Saturday against Brian Ortega, and Josh is on a 5-fight win streak. Not only that, but a mutual opponent, Max Holloway, just got pieced up and lost for the 3rd time against Alex, whereas Max did somewhat convincingly beat Yair just recently. So it all points to Josh Emmett. The only person that would have had an argument above that would have been the Abraham Lincoln looking Dagestani Zabit Megamed Sharapov, all 6'1". I know he said that he looked like the Russian Abraham Lincoln. All respect to him, 6'1", 145-pound guy who has wrestling like Habib and striking like Yair Rodriguez. Damn, was I disappointed when Zabit said, due to injuries and other things, he doesn't feel like
just not having the heart. Yeah.
No, he just at 31 or so, he just said something after his last injury. He did not feel like himself, and and that's a shame because
I mean, you have to be. there 100%. And if it's just not there in your head and in the fight game, and sometimes one fight will change it.
Like
and,
Michelle said, and
sometimes it goes the opposite direction too. So
yeah,
you never really know, but you need to have your mind sharpened every time you go into one of those cages.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
You're putting your life on the line, literally.
Yeah. You can't be not focused.
You've got to have your focus, and your heart has to be in it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to go through the pain and torture that it takes.
Right.
You can get yourself killed, literally. So that's a wise decision. If you're not in it the way you used to be, it's time to step down.
Exactly. And not only that, but Zabit knows that the guys that were representing Dagestan, there's like the weight of that whole small country on their shoulders, and there's a lot of pride. No, they're not going to all turn out to be a dominant champion and a rich man like Khabib, but none of those guys from Dagestan are going out thinking anything but win at all costs.
Right.
And I think Zabit was was realizing something was wrong. And you know what? At 31, as I think he is, maybe he'll shake that off. Maybe somehow after 6 months or a year, he'll feel good again. And if he feels good, probably one call to Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby, and they'll get him a fight. I would think. Well, he'd have to, depending on how long he's away, he'd have to jump back into the USADA pool for testing. But those guys are all, none of them I don't think have been popped for any substance. They don't need to. It's that combat sambo, training from a young kid that is absolutely killer. Like I was talking to John Fitch the other day, and I asked him. I said, when are we gonna have some of our American wrestlers start to really, really be as good or better than these Dagestani guys, and like maybe even start like beating them regularly? And John said, I don't know if ever. He said their system and their being in combat sambo from an early age, and then living somewhere where you're having to carry, stuff for 4 miles in the burning sun or freezing cold. It's a very focused, amazing atmosphere to train a guy who's going to be an elite fighter and a grappler. And even, and Fitch was that kind of a guy, but in the United States. But yeah, they're tough. It's going to be tough. And you as a wrestler would probably agree. And maybe not that we can never make guys as good. And we have a lot of guys, individuals, that can fight with those guys. Like Beneil can fight with those guys. Some other American guys can fight with those guys. But I don't know if we're all of a sudden going to get a whole bunch of guys that are that good or better than them. What do you think?
I mean, we're going to always see better and better athletes, Colin, no matter what. And over time, it's just, we've talked about it before. UFC is just seeing a lot more refined athletes in general. And I just see it that way. We're just going to keep seeing better and better athletes from all over the world.
That's true. That makes sense. And those guys could get better too, though. That's the thing, But anyway,
I think it goes in cycles in different regions of the world. And, it's always something where it comes back to the U.S., almost like it goes one nation, one region, back to the U.S.
Yep.
Russia and Dagestan,
Japan, Brazil.
Goes back there, but then you have Japan, and then you have Brazil, and
Brazil,
then you have China, and then, and quite frankly, I don't think China's really been put to the test enough, really, with UFC, because they're all over there pretty much in ONE FC. But there's a lot of beasts over there.
There really are,
and you're not prepared to see those beasts that are just coming out and beating world beaters. Look at Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, he lost to Adriano Moraes, the Brazilian from over there. But there are killers over there. There are so many great Asian fighters. And you're right, you make a good point. Because I think, and I don't know what the percentage is, but it seems like if you look at some of the larger countries, China, Japan, Korea, and look at the fighters representing those 3 countries in the UFC, it's a very small amount. Like I wouldn't be surprised if you combine fighters from China, Japan, and Korea all together, they would maybe only add up to 10% of the UFC roster, maybe something like that.
Maybe,
right?
That,
right?
Quite frankly, and I think that it would be interesting to watch more of a
one championship.
Well, one championship versus UFC. If that were to ever happen,
that would be amazing.
So exciting.
Yeah, because they have, and they've got many fighters from USA, Brazil, some from Russia as well. But I think
I know Dana says it's never going to happen, but
right.
Dana boy, Uncle Dana,
he
love
might,
you to death. But
yeah.
you know,
fans want to see it. Fans would love to see it. And Dana can't stay there forever. The UFC will probably be around much longer than Dana White is in charge. Probably much longer than Dana White is alive.
He'll be in charge until he can't be.
He might be 80 years old.
I mean, he'll probably do that. And he's probably got a long life ahead of him. You know, God bless him. You know, I really think he deserves it. He's worked his ass off for that position there. He deserves to keep it. But
yep.
And he's a workaholic, Colin.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't build an organization like that without being a workaholic.
Absolutely.
Anyways, it's time for us to wrap up the show. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in tonight and every other Tuesday. We try to be on at about 6 p.m. Sometimes we'll push it back till 6:30 p.m. But you can always count on us, either one of those, on a Tuesday night. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you're on YouTube, go on over to our Facebook group. Specifically, it's just MMA Power Hour in the search bar. Look for the group. It is a black and white icon. And if you're on our group right now watching us, which I see a few of you are, head on over to the Hannibal TV on YouTube. Specifically, if you want to check it out on Facebook, it's Great North Wrestling / the Hannibal TV.
Absolutely, Dr. Adam Roorda. Both are great places to go. 1,000 members now as of today and climbing for our MMA Power Hour Facebook group, and we're so happy and grateful. Our page, we've got almost 10,000 likes, I think 9,600 or something. So if you know people and you like what we're doing here, jump on over there.
Well, let's start getting all those page likes over to our group and get that group hopping, because you can actually post your own comments, posts, news, everything over there. Might as well get it hopping over there on the group, so that way there's a little more engagement from everybody, and we love seeing news and insights. And Colin, for tonight, I'm going to go ahead and tap it out.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Dr. Adam Roorda, for everything you do. And remember Lith Token, guys. It's a great place. Now it's going to be LitX. And Dr. Adam Roorda can tell you about that if you hit him up online. It's amazing.
Time to get lit.
You got to get lit, man. That's the thing. Get your stuff transferred if you have it. If you don't, you can be buying the LitX. Also, support us online, MMA Power Hour, as we're just talking about, YouTube, and also our individual stuff. Jump on if you can support me and Dr. Adam Roorda. We have our individual. I'm Colin Crandall, MMA, pretty much wherever you look. Just started my YouTube channel. I think I got like 36 subscribers or something. Love to help you guys subscribe there. I'm going to start trying to put out more content as often as I can, if that makes any sense. More content as often, anyway, whatever. I'm going to put out a lot of content and as often as I can, and even more than I've done in the past when I can. And anyway, thank you all for showing up. In order of appearance, Michelle Karate Hottie Watterson, you are so awesome. Thank you so much. Really, truly appreciate you. And a shout out to your husband, Josh. Really appreciate it. Josh Emmett, you are so awesome as well, brother. Really appreciate you, man. Everyone's probably pulling you this way and that way after winning that last fight, being number 3 in the world. Michelle Watterson, I'm cheering you like crazy to win your fight this Saturday. Thank you all so much. Spread the love in a positive way. Treat yourself gentle and kind, and love yourself, love your pets. Make sure they have fresh water, the cat's litter box is clean, medical care, walk your dog whenever they need it, fresh water, and a lot of love, and it'll come back to you a million times over. For the entire team at the MMA Power Hour, I am Colin Crandall, and for tonight, I am tapping out.